Welcome to Mom Bods and Margaritas, where two childhood friends navigate the wild and crazy world of midlife.
That's right. We're diving into the ups and downs of relationships, motherhood, health, sports, and everything in between.
Join us as we share our personal stories, laugh through the challenges, and explore how to thrive in this transformative phase of life. Whether you're feeling lost, empowered, or somewhere in between, we're here to remind you you're not alone.
So grab a coffee or a margarita, settle in, and let's embark on this journey together. It's time to embrace the chaos and celebrate the beauty of midlife. Let's get started.
Well, hey!
Hey!
How was your week or weekend?
It was great.
You had a big weekend.
I did. I had a huge weekend. Turned 50 this weekend. I finally had to acknowledge
Yesterday.
Yesterday. And another friend of mine had a 50th birthday party Saturday night. She made the comment that she must have gotten a DJ just for me for my birthday because I'm pretty much the only one that danced all night. It was so fun.
Were you really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So many people stood on the sidelines and, pumped me up and watched me as they were drinking.
How many did she have there?
Probably 30 to 40.
I couldn't tell by the pictures. There weren't many that I saw that you posted or somebody had tagged you in, so.
Yeah, it was really fun, and it was a beautiful venue at a little botanical garden, so it was really nice. And then my son planned a little small surprise birthday party for me at a Mexican restaurant, go figure, with margaritas. And so
that's where we had our tahine for the first time, right?
That's right. So we had a lot of fun, and then some friends took me to lunch yesterday for my birthday. So I've had several days of libations and enjoying my 50th birthday. Yeah.
We celebrated Brooklyn's 31st birthday. She turned 31 on Friday. So we went out to dinner Saturday night.
That is wild.
I know, right?
That she is 31. I remember her being born.
I know.
Seeing her in the hospital. I remember
you taking her to get her pictures made.
Yes, when she was like 2.
Yeah.
Wow. She is a beautiful, accomplished young lady, and you've done a great job with her, and I just cannot believe she is 31. And then my baby, the little one, he's not little anymore. He's going to be 21 tomorrow.
I know. And then we wonder how we got to 50.
I know.
Our kids are grown.
I know. And here we are talking about mom bods and margaritas. No wonder we need a
and
margarita.
Today, especially when we talk about women's health and menopause.
Yes.
So this should be interesting.
Yes. And one thing I did want to give an update on, which I thought was funny, because I think we have laughed about our inability to deal with technology.
Yes.
And I think that's pretty rampant between the two of us in different scenarios. I guess it was Sunday morning. It may have been Saturday morning, but I'm pretty sure it was Sunday morning. I got a good morning text from Rod, who
did?
I thought I had blocked. Yes, apparently I did not block him. And he said, good morning. And that's all he said. And I said, good morning back to him just to see what he would say. Because I was going to say, this isn't going to work for me. But he never said anything else.
That was it? So you haven't talked to the dude in like 2 weeks?
Yeah.
3 weeks? And then he just says, good morning.
This is the weirdest. I'm so confused, guys, about what's going on.
Good old Rod.
With these, maybe he heard our podcast. Maybe it leaked already. But I am so confused with these men who are grown. Needless to say, I thought I had blocked him, but I didn't. So that's, going to be on the order of business, is making sure that he's blocked.
Sorry, Rod.
I mean, clearly he's not asking me out. He's just texting good morning to 17 different women.
Yeah, you'll have to continue to give us updates throughout your...
Especially on Rod.
Especially Rod. Rod's going to be an audience favorite, I bet.
Yeah, he's a staple. I have yet to meet the man in person.
Right.
but have a date tomorrow night.
Yes.
So
yes.
that one's been in the works for a while. Somebody that I know but haven't seen in a very long time, and super excited about it, and kind of just excited to get out there and just really embrace what 50 means, and having more mature relationships, and not the stupid things we did in high school in our early 20s, hopefully. I'm not making any promises, but
if it happens, it happens.
If I'm running through a field with Boone's Farm and a campfire, then
Zima.
Mind your business.
And a Jolly Rancher, not Zima.
I am probably overly excited about this topic, and maybe it's going to sound like I'm coming from a negative place, but I genuinely believe that we are not the only ones. I feel like there are so many women our age who are confused, who have been brushed aside by doctors. And I want to be very, very clear that everything I'm going to say here, I am not knocking doctors. I happen to love my OBGYN. She has been a godsend for me and has been great, and they all do their best. What I'm knocking, or what I'm questioning, is the entire medical establishment and the amount of resources, time, study, and information that has gone into women's health, particularly menopause. For example, I heard about a lady that had to have a biopsy, and it was internal. I don't know if it was uterine, cervix, something. I believe it was cervix. And they were just going to do it. And the doctor said, well, you can expect some cramping. It's going to be very unpleasant, whatever.
Is this someone you know?
This was a video that I watched. Okay. And her husband had to have a testicular ultrasound, which, again, not to pretend I'm a doctor, but basically it is a wand that goes on the skin that uses gel to glide over the skin, so there's no way it's painful, it's not uncomfortable. It is literally like someone rubbing their hand across your arm or wherever, right? In this case, the testicles. And his doctor offered him anesthesia, and she was not offered anesthesia for taking cells while she's awake in the doctor's office from her cervix. And she said it was the most excruciating pain. And so I do believe women's health has a long way to go.
I struggled with trying to prepare for tonight because I was going all over the place with my notes. Originally, you and I had talked about mainly sticking to like the menopause avenue. But I don't know why. I thought we might not have enough material for that. So I tried to broaden it and say, let's talk about women's health, menopause, that type of thing. So I was struggling because, like I said before, I always am going to speak personally. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a therapist. This is just my experience. And when I think of women's health, I go back to when I was young and where it all started, and how well I did or didn't take care of myself, which gets me to where I am now. Sure, some of it's genetic. Sure, some of it's your environment. But for me, I think a lot of it is a mindset and it not being a habitual routine of mine to take care of myself. And I won't even say consistently, because I never really took care of myself when I was younger. I felt like I didn't have to. I was always thin. I ate what I wanted. I didn't exercise. I think when I graduated high school, I was like 118, and I'm 5'6". And other than when I was pregnant, I stayed at 123 pounds until I got to the age of 38, which is when I started going through perimenopause symptoms, which is early. But for me, that's when I started. So point is, I never took care of myself, and I didn't look on down the road because I thought I would always be thin. My mom's thin. I really didn't have many family members that were overweight, so I didn't really think that it would be an issue one day. And, anyway, so I really struggled with how to go about this conversation.
By the way, you look great.
Well, thanks.
You have never been overweight.
No, but out of shape. I'll say out of shape.
So I will say I come from an overweight family for the most part. Almost everyone in my family is overweight. I was an athlete, let me say mid-grade athlete. Let's not give the impression that I was, playing in college. But what I mean is I have always been active. I took horseback riding lessons. I took dance. I cheered. I played fast pitch softball until I was 18. I was on the gymnastics team. I was on the dance team.
Right.
I was constantly moving and exercising. And like you, I ate whatever I wanted, but I was burning so many calories a day. Throughout my life, I would say after high school, I packed on the 15, the pudge, and worked really hard to get that off, and then I would gain weight, and then I would lose weight, and then I would gain weight. So I have yo-yoed quite a bit, and I work very hard in the gym now. And although I do appreciate that I do have some results, I still am not where I want to be. I feel like my weight, especially after my pregnancies, I got so big, and just life.
Yeah.
And did not exercise and eat right. I think it's hard to do. So if you're a young mom, a single mom, somebody that's listening, it is hard. Your life revolves around those kids, and you might eat,
you're tired,
2 chicken nuggets off of their plate, and that's all you eat all day, and it's tough.
See, for me, I never yo-yoed in the weight. I wasn't one of those that after high school I gained 15 pounds. That wasn't me. I gained a few pounds, but I needed to. But like I said, I wasn't over, I was never over 123 pounds. And I'm not saying that everyone out there needs to be 123 pounds if you're 5'6". That's what I was. That's what I was my entire life, with my lifestyle of not exercising and eating what I wanted. Now, I don't really think that I realized at that age that it had to do with me having a fast metabolism. I don't think I ever thought about metabolism or what that was. I just thought, this is the way I am. I'll always be like this, and it is what it is. And I don't remember giving it any more thought than that.
Yeah.
Until 38 came around, and I gained like 5 pounds over the summer of 2012. I thought that I'd had a new job and I was watching kids at like a summer daycare. I thought it was because I was eating breakfast with them, then we were eating lunch, and then I was going home. And I'm not a breakfast person, so I don't usually do all that. So anyway, I kind of figured it's just because I'm eating more. Well, over the course of a couple of years, I began to have other symptoms that I didn't know involved perimenopause until I started having issues with my period. And I think that's when I really noticed that that's probably what it is. Your periods will go from a full 5 days, in my case it was like a full 5 days, to like 3 days. And then it might get lighter to where it goes down to 2 days. So that's how it changed for me. And within a year and a half, I had probably gained maybe 15 pounds. That just seems like forever ago, but I think I gained like 15 pounds within 2 years. And then I didn't stop there, but it kind of slowed down and I gained more. And I went to the doctor, and you don't really get officially diagnosed with menopause until you go 12 months with absolutely no period, no bleeding, nothing. So if I'm not mistaken, I think I was 42, about to be 43. So this has been going on for me for 7 or 8 years. I've already been postmenopausal this long, and I'm 50. And so I'm getting into the stage where now I'm coming off of hormone replacement therapy. So I've been off for 8 weeks, Whereas I feel like a lot of people my age are just now getting into menopause or getting into those years and maybe tampering on whether or not they want to do the hormone replacement therapy. There's other ways to go about it. That was just my choice. But that was a really hard time for me, going through menopause at such a young age. And I felt like I was going through it by myself because no one that I knew was going through menopause at the age of 42.
So my experience, which this just tells you, everybody's different. I had always had an extremely heavy period, even when I was playing sports, and had a lot of the side effects, cramping and, major headaches, all those things. And when I was 32, well, let's say 29, I had my youngest son. And I had my tubes tied because I had a C-section. And after that, my period got just out of control. And I was told by the OB that I was seeing at that time, that's just what happens when you have two babies.
So it was heavy, or you weren't having it
very
as often?
Heavy.
Okay.
I've never not had one.
Okay.
I've never not had one. It was terrible, and the cramping and the bleeding was out of control, and she basically dismissed me, and that's what I was touching on earlier. She was a mom. She's a female doctor. She's an OBGYN. She delivered my second baby. It's not like she's a man that's out of touch. Right? And she said, that's just what happens after you have two babies. And I'm like, no.
That's crazy.
It's not. Not for me, ma'am. And I went to see her a little bit longer. She never offered me hormones. She did offer me an antidepressant, which that's another thing. They continue to push that. Well, when you're someone who yo-yos, and I remember taking an antidepressant during my pregnancy with him and then after my pregnancy with him, and I had terrible postpartum depression. They put me on Prozac, which was horrific. It was terrible. I called in and I said, this is not right. I'm not feeling right. I even was to the point of almost feeling like suicidal. And they said, oh, you just have to keep taking it. It'll get in your system.
It's got to kick in.
And I said, no, I'm quitting. Well, you shouldn't do it cold turkey. Well, I did, or I probably wouldn't be here. It was that bad. It made the depression worse. But fast forward, I go to another OBGYN because I'm not getting anything from her. And see her for a little bit, and I start keeping a journal. And I'm describing everything that's going on, and she says, no, we're going to try you on hormones. We have to do that first. She tried me on the hormones. I went back in whatever it was, 60, 90 days, however long they had to do it. And I had kept a journal. And it was to the point where I would bleed for 3 weeks, be off for 1. So it was the opposite. And finally she said, oh, wait, it's got to come out. You have endometriosis. And I was 32 and I had a hysterectomy. And it was wonderful, but they left one ovary. And
So did they wait and test you after all of that to find out that you had endometriosis?
Well, it was kind of suspected, I guess, and then discovered for sure, confirmed during the surgery.
Okay.
Is the way that I understand it. But when I was 32, I had a hysterectomy, so they left one ovary. Obviously, I'm not having a period anymore. I believe the other ovary kicked the bucket, checked out early, maybe not at 42, but it was fairly early, because I started having some symptoms, extreme weight gain. I'm still eating the same. I'm working out. I'm getting this huge menopause belly, all these things, right? Still yo-yoing. I did Weight Watchers. I did, everything that I could do. And so I think I was in menopause then too, but there's no way to know because you don't have a period, right? And so finally, it had gotten to the point where it was so bad, I was still fighting, not even wanting to get any kind of drugs or anything, because you read horror stories about all of it being linked to breast cancer, which they've just come out with a study saying none of that's true. I was having mood swings, terrible dryness, painful intercourse. I had frozen shoulder, and for anybody out there who doesn't know what that is,
my mom has had that.
It is absolutely so incredibly painful. I cannot tell you. I did physical therapy. I cried. I have a very high pain tolerance. They gave me a shot in the joint. I had a massage therapist.
That's awful.
For 18 months, I could not lift my shoulder above shoulder height. I couldn't lift it above my head. Started working out. I have great mobility in my shoulder now as a result, but it's been a wild ride. And so just about maybe 3 to 4 months ago, I got on the estrogen patch, and it has been a life changer. But I don't know how long I was actually so far into menopause, but I do know that I had the beginning stages of osteopenia, which is the beginning stages of osteoporosis. And I fought it as far as I went kicking and screaming, did not want to have to get on the estrogen patch because I was terrified of the cancer link. But since then, I've realized that's not even
Are you only
correct.
on estrogen?
Yep. And feel like I need to be on more. Maybe testosterone, maybe progestin, I don't know, or progesterone.
When I got on my hormone replacement therapy, I did both because I was told you really need to do both. You don't need to have one without the other. So I've always done both. I've never taken any testosterone. I don't even know if I've been checked for that. But sometimes I'll see on social media women will post about how they'll give themselves testosterone shots,
and
or
they feel so much
yeah
better.
So that has never been on my radar. I don't know if there's really any point in me doing it now, but since I have stopped taking my hormones 8 weeks ago, I think I told you initially I had a lot of headaches, probably the first 3 to 4 weeks, and that's not really been happening as much. So I don't know if it was that or my pillows, because I do need new pillows, but I'm still sleeping on the same pillows and I'm not getting as much headache. So that may have just been my body trying to figure everything out again. But the only symptoms I feel like that are coming back that I had prior to the hormones are hot flashes.
Oh, yes.
Because I stopped all of that. I wasn't having any. And I feel like sometimes I'll get flushed again, or I'll get hot. And so I think that might be starting up. And I have not been sleeping well at all.
Yep.
But I'm also not exercising. But I've not been sleeping through the night. I'll even wake up and not be able to go back to sleep, or get up super early after going to bed late. I think as far as the weight gain goes, for me, I have to exercise and eat right. I usually don't do well if I exercise and eat poorly. I'll do better if I, eat right and then just exercise a little bit. So, I haven't been doing great this past week, but I hate to exercise. I've always hated to work out. I don't enjoy it. I don't like lifting weights. I don't like running, and I would never walk because I thought that's what you do when you get old. What's walking going to do? Walking's not going to do anything.
Yeah,
and
it's so good for you.
And it is. And so when I walk consistently, or when I go with my husband, I feel so much better. And my Fitbit shows that I burn just as many calories when I walk for 40 minutes than when I would go to the gym with you in the mornings and do HIIT or whatever it was we were doing that day for 25 to 30 minutes, which is so strange to me.
When you said, I think I gained 5 pounds over that summer, I'm 99% sure I've gained 5 pounds since Friday. That is not an exaggeration.
But I never fluctuated back then.
But if I have any alcohol, which shout out margaritas.
Yeah.
If I have any alcohol, if I look at sugar.
Mine's bread.
Bread, sugar,
rice,
carbs.
the bad carb.
I say all that to say I'm in a decent place now with going to the gym and all of that. But I did a very strict diet, no alcohol, no sugar. I had flourless bread. I had a piece every morning with my toast with egg white and spinach omelets. Mm-hmm. For 7 weeks, I lost 3 pounds in my will to live. 2 of it was body fat and 1 was muscle. And I'm like, how is it
no
muscle?
Water weight?
How is it muscle?
The infamous
because
water
I work
weight.
out. So I will say another video, which I get all my information from TikTok. Well, this lady was a doctor, and it was so eye-opening, and it made me realize that it's the machine, right? We're sitting here having a conversation, and I say, my doctor, who I love and adore, she gave me estrogen patch only. I asked her about testosterone. She said, you don't need it. And I'm like, well, I think my other ovary kicked the bucket. And she's like, well, as long as you have an ovary, you don't need it. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Which doesn't make sense to us, because what is the ovary doing?
But I don't believe it, because I think it closed shop. Like, what are you doing?
Right.
And then your doctor said, you never take one without the other.
Well, mine was progesterone.
Right. But that's what I'm saying. We're both in menopause, and yet we get 2 different stories.
Yeah.
So in this TikTok video, and I should have written down her name so I could give her credit, she's a doctor, and she was telling a story about how women's health was so lacking, and that when she was doing her residency, they only had a couple of weeks focused around gynecology, obstetrics, like not delivering babies, but around women's health. And she was rotating and only had a couple of weeks exposure. And that some of the guys, this was not charted, this was not a technical term, this was, work talk where they, nudge each other. But she was walking down the hall, and one of them said, WW, room 8, or whatever it was. And she's like, WW? What is that? Like, it's not blood count. She's trying to think, what's WW? And they said, whiny woman. Mm. And so she's young. She's a young resident. But when she goes in, the lady is complaining and saying, I can't sleep. I have insomnia. I'm having hot flashes. My joints ache. I don't feel good. I have no sex drive. All the things, right? And they were labeling her a whiny woman instead of doing a full blood panel, a real blood panel, because I did a lot of blood panels before I was told that I was in menopause, but I was having major symptoms before that. So I think the blood tests are not necessarily accurate. Let's say the level is 3 to 10 and you're a 3.1. You're in the normal range, but you're on the low end, and your body may not tolerate that. And so I think there are a lot of holistic practitioners now that are able to pick up on those more, I guess, the smaller nuances in your blood work. But something's got to change. Women are suffering, and and mood swings are real, y'all, and it causes problems with marriages. And
well, listen, I always play devil's advocate, so in this case, I'm going to. With all of that being said, I think that, because you know me, I'm a straight shooter. That's how I like things, and let's figure out the problem and find the result, and let's do something about it. So while all of that may be true, I also feel like we need to owe it to ourselves to take care of ourselves.
Agreed.
So, okay, you're in menopause, but we still have to eat properly. We still have to exercise. We still have to understand that our metabolism is not as fast as it used to be.
Yes.
I cannot eat 2,500 calories a day and then go on a 30-minute walk and maybe do 15 minutes of yoga and expect to not gain weight. So we have to be responsible, and I'm talking to myself too, to research and listen. We have to research, we have to listen to our bodies, and we have to do what is good for us. I'm trying to eat more protein, and the crazy thing is I love meat. I feel like I like protein foods. I like cottage cheese. Not a huge fan of yogurt, but I'll eat it because I'm not a picky eater. I love eggs. I love all the things that are protein, but when I look at my diet, I really don't eat a lot of protein.
Yeah.
So it's more carb, which is not what my body needs right now. You need some carb, but not the amount that I'm putting in my body compared to the output. So I've been trying to eat more protein, especially in the mornings, because like I said, I'm not a breakfast person. I like to be up for a bit and then just kind of munch. I've been making myself eat yogurt in the mornings, and I do the full fat Greek yogurt. I don't do anything low fat or reduced fat or any of that. I do full fat Greek yogurt. I don't do the flavored because I don't like the extra sugar, but I'll drizzle honey over it and put some granola and fruit in there, and it's actually really good. And like I said, I'm not a yogurt person. It's just not my thing. It's a little too tangy or tart for me, but the honey is a game changer. And it's such a healthy, natural sweetener that it does the trick. So I don't need the flavored yogurt. Cottage cheese, not everyone likes cottage cheese because of the texture of it. And I have found recipes on social media where you just put that thing in a food processor and put some other ingredients in it, you would never know it's cottage cheese.
And
I'm telling you.
Cheese.
And I do too. I eat it just out of the tub.
Me too. I love it.
I follow, do you know Madison LaCroix? She's on Southern Charm.
Yes.
Okay. Do you follow her?
No.
I follow her on Instagram. And she will post some healthy snacks that she likes to eat. She's big into fitness and she takes care of herself. She posted a video of like a late night snack that she makes for herself, and it's cottage cheese, and she will sprinkle just a little bit. She uses truffle salt, which I don't think it matters. I happen to have some, so I just used it too, but and you don't need much. You just get as much cottage cheese as you want. You sprinkle the truffle salt on there, and then the everything bagel seasoning. Again, not a lot. You just kind of sprinkle it on there, stir it up, and then you cut up vegetables to go in it. She diced up cucumbers. I think she chopped a tomato, cherry tomatoes, and then peppers. So I'll buy those mini peppers, slice them up, and then put radishes, cucumber, whatever, and then I'll top that with just a little bit more salt. You would not believe how good that is.
I love it.
Especially if you're just hungry and you're like, if I don't get something to eat right now, I'm about to make a bad decision. It's going to be a bag of Cheez-Its, or it's going to be a Debbie cake, or whatever I can get my hands on. When I have those few ingredients in my refrigerator, it literally takes me 5 minutes to make. I did it today. And I'm eating like 13 grams of protein with that cottage cheese and raw vegetables. Yeah. So I'm trying to do better about eating my protein. I try to eat an egg a day. And it will fill you up.
Yeah.
And it keeps you from snacking, and it holds you over longer. But if I can just get a hold of my protein intake and walk right now, I've not really been walking outside because it's just been unbearably hot, but I've got a treadmill in there that is not in use at the moment, so there's no reason why I shouldn't be doing something. So part of me feels a little bit strange with us talking about this and saying our thoughts on women's health and what we need to be doing and not doing, and here I am not really doing everything that I need, but I think that's part of the struggle. Is we usually know what's good for ourselves and what we need to do and not, but we have to make that decision and meet in the middle. We've got to do our part and then seek out answers for the things that we don't know, and that's out of our control.
Yeah.
The menopause and the symptoms, that's out of our control.
Well, and you're right, we need to control. I mean, I'm not saying, I watch some of these shows on TV, and these people weigh 700 pounds and they eat 5 Big Macs for lunch and they can't understand why they're fat. Again, I'm not knocking somebody who struggles with their weight. My family's overweight. I have been overweight. I have yo-yoed a lot. You do have to take accountability for a piece of your health and try to eat right and exercise, and I get it. Some food is really expensive and it's not accessible to everybody, but for the most part, there are things that you can do.
Absolutely.
And eating right, and I mean, I walked 2.8 miles last night in the heat. So I'm exercising every day. And that was after I went to the gym yesterday morning.
Right.
So I'm trying to do the right things, but the things like they get 6 weeks rotation on women's health, and then you're getting varying stories about what's the right medicine combination. And you have things that really affect your life, like mood swings, and they want to shove, every time you go in there, they want to shove an antidepressant down your face, and that's not always the right thing. Again, there are people who legitimately have issues with depression, and they need to take medication. That's not what I'm saying, just like a diabetic needs insulin, right? But they are very quick to write a script and say it's all in your head. You just need to take an antidepressant. And then right here, we've gotten 2 different stories about the hormones. When you have vaginal dryness, sexual intercourse is extremely painful. You have mood swings. You're not in the mood at all. That affects your marriage. That affects your relationships. Who wants to have sex when you have been up for the last 4 nights?
And when you're not sleeping well, you're so irritable.
Yes.
And that affects a lot.
Yes.
Throughout the day.
Yes. And so all of those things, I just feel like our medical community as a whole needs to do a better job at educating physicians, because they're just doing what they were trained to do.
Right.
They're good people, they're good doctors, they're doing their best. But until we fix the systemic problem of calling people the WW, you're whining, well, I haven't slept a good night's sleep in 6 months. My joints ache. I have frozen shoulder. I have all the, hot flashes, mood swings, all these things that are very real. They've got to do something about it. And I don't know where that starts. I guess getting on a podcast and talking about it and letting other people know they're not alone.
I'm not a medicine person. I'm not against... I don't care what people do. If you want to take medicine, take it. Just for me personally, I've never been one that is apt to just take a pill for anything.
Neither.
It's just not ever been my style. It wasn't like that for us growing up. I didn't have a lot of family members that were on medication for... I don't think I had any that were on medication for health issues, including my grandparents, until they were way older. So maybe like 70s. And even then it was high cholesterol or something. What do? You don't know the answer. Maybe taking certain medications earlier on might have helped me, but I was not going to be that person. In my mind, it's always better to change your diet.
Yep.
Get your body moving. And just make smart decisions.
Yeah. Which
is something else that we have to ingrain younger people's minds with.
Yes.
And it's like I've talked about before on here. If you can start off healthy habits at a young age, it will be so much easier when you are older. It's hard for me to have to figure all of this out and eat better and exercise at the time in my 40s and now 50 years old because I've never enjoyed it and I've never had to do it. So I don't really want to do it.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of having to make myself do it.
Yeah.
And if we could just make exercise fun for children.
Yeah.
And my kids are grown. It's too late for me to try to ingrain that in their minds. But I don't know. It's so hard because everyone's busier. And as we get older, everyone's lives get busier and busier, and you eat more processed foods and, drive-throughs, and, that's just a whole nother thing that I could get on. But, it's just, things have to start slowing down, and we have to start taking better care of ourselves. I don't know the answer, and it would take a lot of sacrificing with a lot of people. Something's got to give.
Yeah, and Big Pharma, you touched on it. Every time you go to the doctor, they want to give you another pill. And the more, I'm not a pill person.
Or an antibiotic when you go in for a virus. You have a virus.
Well, and my family too, there's a lot of people in my family that are on a lot of medication, and I'm always the more natural route if there is a way.
Yeah.
I mean, I go to a chiropractor.
Because when do you come off of that medication?
Yeah, never. Your life
Unless
long.
you change your habits.
You continue to go up on your dose.
Right.
And then that causes side effects that then you get another pill for. And again, my lifestyle, my advice, my opinion, all of that is not for everybody.
Right.
Everybody has their own thing. But I go to the chiropractor every 2 weeks. I'm a huge believer. I used to have migraines terribly. I haven't had one in over 5 years. It boosts your immune system every time you go. So anytime I can go to a naturopath, go get a massage for my achy joints, get a chiropractic adjustment, I'm going to do that. I'm not going to, if I can help it, I'm not going to be on a lot of medication. And if I have to take it, great.
Well, and listen, hormone replacement therapy is medication. So nobody come at me saying that I'm against medication.
That's right.
Being
Same.
medicated. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just not one that's going to take medicine for every little thing that's wrong with me.
Yes, agreed.
I take medication for acid reflux. That was in recent years. I would drink milk. I would chew on a Tums. I would change my diet up a little bit. And I'm sure probably it's because of weight gain. I'm a good 25 pounds heavier than I was back in 2012. It is what it is. Until I drop weight, I'll be on acid reflux medication. I'm on cholesterol medication because for the past 5 years my cholesterol was high. And I would exercise a little bit. I would eat better. And it was in the high range. And so I've been on that medication for a year, and it dropped over 100. It came down over 100 points. Obviously, the medication's working. I haven't changed my lifestyle enough for that to have come down on its own when it didn't for 5 years.
Yeah.
And part of that's probably my age, my diet, not exercising.
It's genetic.
It is what it is. So, again, I'm not against medication.
Well, I'm not either. I was desperate for that estrogen patch. I couldn't leave Walgreens fast enough to stick it on my skin. I prefer to handle things naturally. If my blood sugar is up, if it's it's a little bit elevated, my glucose, okay, I'm going to go on a stricter diet. I'm going to exercise more, whatever that looks like. And I feel better when I exercise.
I do too.
But I also fight against the grain, because I've probably gained 5 pounds this weekend from having some alcohol. My body wants to just hold on to weight.
Yeah.
So it is what it is.
I do sleep better when I'm exercising.
Yeah.
So I've got to get back doing that again. I thought maybe once school started I could kind of get back in my routine. I don't know that that's the reason why I'm not sleeping well as of late. I do think it's because of coming off of my hormones, but it would help probably if I exercised when it helped before. So I've got to get back into making that more of a consistent part of my day.
Well, it's always easy to be the armchair quarterback, right? We can always sit and tell others what they should do, but I know I'm trying to always make health a priority, because I see people in my family that are on a ton of medications, and it's not always because they lived a horrible lifestyle. They could have genetic things, but I just feel like for me, I want to live as long as I can, being more healthy, being active, being able to take care of myself, and not be on a ton of medication that I'm dependent upon.
Right. And I'll say this, before we wrap up, and then if there's anything else you have to say, because this is important to me, and I've kind of let it slip through my notes, but I think it's really, really important to make sure, men or women, but to make sure you are going for your annual checkups. Gynecological checkups for sure. Women, I jotted it down. I mean, I think we probably all know, but at the age of 40, I think it's recommended that you start getting a mammogram. And then for pap smears, I think it's as early as 21. But that should be something that you're doing on a consistent basis. Most insurances will cover that, or a large part of that. So I think that needs to be something that is made a priority. I think that even going to your PCP, your primary care physician, which I didn't have one for a long time. My OBGYN was my doctor, and I never went to the doctor for anything. I didn't even hardly go when I was sick, because I didn't need to. But if you have a primary care physician, which I have one now because I'm older, so I have other issues that my gynecologist doesn't deal with, go for those annual visits. Your dentist, go get your teeth cleaned every 6 months. You have to start taking care of yourself. But I don't want to get upset about it, but I've personally had several friends in the past 4 years that have been diagnosed with cancer. Now, one was a male. Getting checkups done on a regular basis will expose that. If you go on a regular basis and you catch diseases or cancers early on, and it's treatable, or it's more likely to be treatable, it's just so important to go. And I know sometimes that we may not make the time, or we may be fearful about going because we don't want to know, out of sight, out of mind. If I don't go, I don't have to hear any bad news. But at some point, it's going to catch up with you. I would just encourage everyone to start doing that on a regular basis. It's one time a year. You go to the dentist twice a year, and everything else is one time a year, even the eye doctor.
And you need to get a colonoscopy.
Yes, I recently did that too.
I did too, and that was my second one. I had to do one in my 30s when I was having some issues. I wanted to mention this too. They will start paying for a mammogram at 40. But because I have so much breast cancer in my family, I had genetic testing for the BRCA gene, and I started getting regular mammograms at 34. So talk to your doctor.
Yes.
Go to a doctor that you trust, and you don't have to go to one that you don't like.
Right.
You're free to go to anybody in your network, go to someone else, find somebody that you feel comfortable with. And just like I told in my story, that one told me, hey, this is just what happens after you have 2 babies. I switched. You have to do those things, those screenings. And it's really important.
Yeah, don't be afraid to ask questions when you go into your doctor visits. Ask, and if you feel like you're not getting a good vibe from your doctor, or they make you feel rushed, or like you're taking up too much of their time, find another doctor. I know it can be inconvenient because you got to go through that whole process again, but it's too important to not make it a priority, especially when a lot of this is just one time a year.
And
once
be
or twice
your
a
own
year.
advocate.
Yes.
You've got to raise concerns. And if you
Yes.
don't understand something, raise your hand. This has been a great conversation. I think it's well needed, and I think if you're in your 20s and you happen to be listening to this, do it now.
Right.
Make it a priority.
Right.
Do it now, because when you get older, you're going to wish that you had.
Well, and I tell my daughter all the time, while she's not married and doesn't have kids, she needs to be taking time to exercise, to do all of these things that you can't do, or you're not as free to do once you get married and you have children. And for her to start now, exercising on a regular basis, taking care of yourself on a regular basis, doing things that you need to do now, that way when the time comes when she does have a family, this is already ingrained in her day, and we can still make things happen.
Yes.
We may have to get up a little earlier, or go to bed a little bit later, or skip out on a show, or walk on the treadmill when we watch our favorite TV show. But if we want it bad enough,
we'll do it.
Then we'll do it.
Yeah, great conversation.
It is good. I was a little uneasy about it all day, but it's been a good conversation. Part of me feels like there's so much more we could have talked about or covered,
Yes.
but
Absolutely. Maybe we'll make a part 2.
yeah. All right.
So
well,
important. Take care of yourselves.
yes, make your appointments.
And going back to our last episode, friendships are so important. People need to rally around. Make sure you're taking care of yourself, especially if you're depressed or you've got
And check
health
on your
problems.
friends.
Yeah.
Some of my friends that I have, we'll send text messages saying, okay, just set up my mammogram, or okay, I just set up my colonoscopy. Have you set up your? Just ask your friends, and if they're true friends, they won't mind you asking.
Yeah,
So
that's right.
take care of yourself and your friends.
Yeah.
All right. Have a good week.
Be well.